Hi everyone, this is the Nordic Venture Show, your guide to the exciting world of Nordic startups and venture capital. In today's episode, we're exploring a startup called Enifer.
Buckle up, everyone, because this deep dive is going to rock your world. We're talking protein, but hold on to your hats, because it's not your typical chicken or beef kind of conversation.
You got that right. Today, we're diving headfirst into the fascinating world of fungi. And no, I don't mean your typical button mushrooms at the salad bar.
We're going way beyond that. We're talking about fungi as a sustainable protein source. Think about it. The world is obsessed with protein, but our current methods, well, they've got their downsides.
For sure. Meat production, the environmental impact is a big one. And even some of the plant-based alternatives, they aren't always a perfect solution either.
That's where today's topic comes in, Enifer, and their revolutionary creation, PEKILO. They claim to have cracked the code on sustainable protein, and get this, it all comes down to fungi.
It's pretty amazing stuff. See, the demand for protein, it's not slowing down anytime soon, right? So we got to find new ways to feed a growing planet without, destroying it in the process.
Exactly. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's break it down. What exactly is PEKILO?
Basically, it's protein made by fungi. We call it mycoprotein. I know what you might be thinking, but hear me out. Humans have been eating fungi for centuries.
It's true. Think of all the mushrooms we eat, and don't even get me started on truffles.
Exactly. Even that blue cheese that people love, it's got fungi in it. So PEKILO is kind of like taking this ancient tradition and, giving it a 21st century upgrade.
So we're talking about a high-tech version of something our ancestors were already hip to. That's pretty cool. And speaking of being hip, Enifer is definitely not shy about how sustainable they claim this stuff is.
They're not messing around. They're saying PEKILO uses way less water compared to producing animal protein or even soy. And the greenhouse gas emissions, way, way lower.
That's a bold statement. So what's the secret sauce? What makes this mycoprotein so eco-friendly?
Well, it's all about how it's grown. Picture this. No massive farms, no need to drench the fields with gallons of water every day. Mycoprotein just doesn't need it. It's incredibly efficient.
So it's like the ultimate low-maintenance crop.
Pretty much. Plus, no pesticides, no fertilizer runoff polluting our rivers and oceans. It's a win-win for us and the planet.
It's like the environmental superhero of the food world. But okay, let's say we're sold on saving the planet. What about the practicality? Are we all going to be stuck eating like mushroom loaf and fungi burgers for every meal?
That's where it gets really cool. PEKILO is crazy versatile. Enifer has actually developed different versions of it. There's PEKILO Aqua, which is for aquafeed.
Hold up. Aquafeed. For those of us who don't speak fluent fish food, what exactly is aquafeed?
Good question. Aquafeed is basically the food we use on fish farms, what with aquaculture and all that. So as we're eating more and more seafood, it's crucial to figure out how to raise fish sustainably, right?
Right.
And that's where PEKILO Aqua swoops in. It's a way more sustainable alternative to traditional fish meal, which often has its own environmental baggage.
Okay, so we're talking sustainable fish food. That's wild. But what about us land mammals? What does PEKILO have in store for our taste buds?
Well, there's PEKILO Pet, which is specially designed for our furry companions. But here's the kicker. They've also got a version made just for humans.
Whoa. Hold the phone. So this isn't just some futuristic sci-fi food concept. People can actually eat this stuff.
You got it. It's not some weird artificial thing either. It's just natural protein-packed goodness from fungi.
Okay, I gotta ask, how does it taste? Be honest. Is this one of those, it's good for the planet but tastes like cardboard situations?
Actually, that's the surprising part. PEKILO is naturally pretty neutral in taste and color. Imagine it as a blank canvas for chefs to work their magic.
So no funky fungi flavor, no overwhelming mushroom aftertaste.
Nope. It's all about creating delicious food with this sustainable, super nutritious base. And speaking of nutrition, PEKILO really brings it to the table, literally.
Well, I did read something about it being packed with nutrients.
You read right. We're talking high protein content. Some versions clock in at a whopping 65% protein. Plus, it's got a balanced amino acid profile.
And why is that a big deal?
Well, amino acids, those are the building blocks of protein. They're essential for our bodies to function correctly. Muscle growth, repair, all that good stuff.
Got it. Gotta have those amino acids.
And don't forget, PEKILO also has some omega-6 fatty acids and fiber, just for good measure.
Wow, this is blowing my mind. I'm starting to think those button mushrooms in my fridge are grossly underappreciated. But you know what's really interesting? Enifer isn't new to this whole PEKILO thing.
Yeah.
They were actually producing it decades ago. back in the 70s. What happened? Did the world just not catch the fungi fever back then?
You know, it really makes you wonder. It's like they were ahead of their time. I guess bell-bottoms and disco were more appealing back then than fungi burgers.
You got a point there. But seriously, what happened? Why'd they stop making it? Was it a taste bud tragedy? A marketing mishap? Give us the scoop.
You'll have to wait till after the break to find out. It's a real head-scratcher, isn't it? I mean, you had this innovative product way ahead of its time in terms of sustainability, but it just vanished.
It's like a mystery novel. What could have derailed the fungi train back then?
Well, one theory is that the world just wasn't ready for a fungi revolution. Back then, sustainability wasn't really on people's radar like it is today.
It's true. Back in the 70s, people were more worried about running out of gas than saving the planet.
Exactly. And on top of that, the technology might have been a bit too ahead of its time. Think about it. Consumer tastes change. What's popular one decade can be ancient history the next.
Oh, yeah. Just look at what happened to Tab Cola and those powdered orange drinks.
Right. So maybe back in the disco era, people weren't quite ready to swap their steaks and burgers for, well, fungi.
But fast forward to today, and plant-based everything is all the rage. So maybe Enifer was just a few decades too early.
It's possible. But timing isn't everything. There had to be other factors at play, right? Like maybe the economics just didn't add up back then.
You mean like it was just too expensive to produce PEKILO on a large scale?
Exactly. Production costs could have been a major roadblock. And if sustainability wasn't a huge selling point back then, there wasn't a lot of incentive for people to switch over from their usual protein sources.
So it's like PEKILO was this amazing idea that got stuck in the starting gate.
You could say that. But now, with the renewed focus on sustainability and the demand for alternative proteins skyrocketing, Enifer sees a second chance to make PEKILO a household name.
Like they're staging the ultimate comeback tour. But even with all the stars seemingly aligned this time around, they've still got their work cut out for them.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Scalability is a big one. Can they ramp up production quickly enough to meet what they're hoping will be a huge demand?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? They can build all the factories they want, but will people actually take a bite? What are your thoughts on that?
Consumer acceptance, it's a hurdle they'll definitely have to clear. People can be creatures of habit, you know, especially when it comes to something as fundamental as what we eat.
It's true. It's like we get attached to certain tastes, textures. Changing those expectations can be tough.
Right. So there are definitely some cultural perceptions about fungi that Enifer will have to navigate. Some folks might see mushrooms as more of a side dish than, you know, the star of the show.
And then there's the whole texture thing. People have very specific ideas about how their food should feel.
Exactly. So Enifer's got their work cut out for them when it comes to educating consumers. They need to shout it from the rooftops why PEKILO is so great. And I don't just mean the sustainability aspect. They got to sell people on the taste, the texture.
They've got to find a way to make PEKILO irresistible.
Right. They need to create those crave-worthy dishes, the kind that'll make people forget they're eating fungi.
It's like that aha moment people have when they realize how versatile tofu can be.
Exactly. They need to tell a story about PEKILO, one that speaks to both our heads and our stomachs.
It's about more than just selling a product. It's about selling an idea.
Right. It's about showing people that sustainable food can be exciting, delicious, even a little adventurous.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential upsides of PEKILO, but let's be real. With any new technology, there are always potential drawbacks, right? What are some of the challenges or concerns that we should be aware of?
You're absolutely right. It's not all sunshine and roses. There are always unknowns. Like, how will producing PEKILO on a massive scale impact land use? Will it end up competing with other forms of agriculture?
That's a really good point. We don't want to solve one problem just to create another one.
Exactly. And what about allergies? Just like with any food, some people might have reactions to mycoprotein.
It's like that with peanuts and shellfish. Some people can't go anywhere near them.
Right. So it's important to acknowledge that PEKILO isn't some kind of magical cure-all. It has its limitations.
It's not about perfection. It's about progress.
Right, 100%. It's about being aware of the potential downsides while still being hopeful about the possibilities.
So where does that leave our listener? The person who's sitting at home listening to this conversation and thinking, okay, this is all very interesting, but how does this fungi stuff actually fit into my life?
It's all about making those connections, right? Bringing this cutting-edge stuff down to earth.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's about what we put on our plates in our kitchens.
So let's talk about that. Our listener is listening. Maybe they're intrigued by this whole fungi thing, maybe a little unsure. What's their first step?
Well, first things first. Don't go digging up mushrooms in the backyard thinking you've struck protein gold.
Yeah, probably best to leave that to the experts, right?
Definitely. But really, this is bigger than just one product,
Yeah.
Bigger than just PEKILO. It's about changing how we think about food.
So it's like a mindset shift.
Exactly. Start paying attention to where your food comes from. Read those labels, do a little research. The more we demand sustainable options, the more companies like Enifer will step up and, make it happen.
It's like we're sending a message with every grocery store run. Exactly. And hey, don't be afraid to experiment in the kitchen a little. There are already tons of amazing, sustainable mushroom-based recipes out there. Who knows, maybe you'll discover your new favorite dish.
Or even invent the next impossible burger, but with, spores instead of soy.
Now there's a thought. The future of food, it's all about creativity, isn't it? It's about scientists, chefs, everyday eaters, all of us coming together to build a more delicious, more sustainable future.
I love that. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of PEKILO and this whole fungi revolution, what's the one thing you want to leave our listener with?
Don't stop asking questions. Keep exploring. Never underestimate the power of a curious mind and, well, an adventurous palate. Who would have thought something as, ordinary as a mushroom could hold the key to a more sustainable future?
It's a wild world out there, and it's getting wilder and hopefully a whole lot tastier by the day. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the future of food. Until next time, keep those minds open. And hey, maybe try a new mushroom recipe while you're at it.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.